Hi, my name is Joey Robert Parks. Way to go, my first video, nice. My name is Joey Robert Parks. I'm a professional author and ghostwriter, and I want to tell you about something that happened to me today. I'm calling this paradigm of a short story because what happened today was just slice of life, and yet it's a perfect, nearly perfect, probably perfect paradigm for what a short story arc could be. So I am in Phoenix, and I met a new friend for who might become a new client, but I met her for coffee, and we ordered pizza. I had chicken barbecue pizza. It was delicious, but I didn't finish it all. I ate about half. We met a couple hours. Then I left, and I got on my scooter, because I have a scooter to get around in town, which I adore and love. Got on my scooter, and I hung my pizza inside of in the package. I hung it on the scooter itself. I got a little hook on there, and I walked out, and it was 108 degrees outside. It's the middle of the summer here in August, and I thought, oh geez, I don't know if this is going to survive my hour plus ride home. Well, not home. I was going to another meeting after that, and I thought, well, I got a few minutes to stop by home and drop it off, but I don't know if it's going to survive. So I opened my phone and I started tapping into ChatGPT, and I said, it's 108 degrees out. Will it survive the ride home? Blah, blah, blah. Now, while I was typing that out, this guy walked by me, and he goes, hey, what's up? And I go, hey, man. He just seemed like some cool guy walking by. I didn't think anything of it. He walked by, and I thought, well, that's nice. A person walking by that's friendly like that. That's so cool. And so anyway, I dismissed it, and I asked Chat my question. It came back, and ChatGPT said, I call her Maya. So Maya said, no, 108 degrees, summer, hot, chicken, barbecue. You're not going to want to take that more than an hour. And I had said to her, I said, if it's not going to be good, I'll just find a homeless person to give it to. She's like, yeah, you might better do that if you're going to be, out for more than an hour. Less than an hour, probably okay. And I thought, well, that guy walked by, and I don't think he's homeless, but maybe I'll find somebody, around. I looked across the street, and I saw him walking away, and he walked across the street over to a convenience store called _K. And I watched him, and I followed him with my eyes, and I saw that he walked up to the front door, and I saw a crate sort of on wheels. What's it called? Anyway, a thing on wheels, and had a bunch of stuff on it. I go, you know what? I think he is homeless. And I saw him kind of hanging around outside the front. I thought, yep, I think he's pretty homeless based on what he was doing and kind of walking around. So I thought, I'll scoot over there. So I get on my scooter and I zip across the street, and I pull up. And just as I pull up, he's walking around the building to the side of the building. And I thought, well, I'm not going to go after him right now. I'll just stand here. I'll just sort of sit here in the parking lot and wait for him near the front door, and I'll wait till he comes back. And so there's this other guy off to the left that's also homeless, I could tell. And he goes, hey, did you go to that school? And he was referencing a shirt I had on earlier that said Scottsdale School of Film and Television. And I said, yeah, I did. He goes, oh, are you a filmmaker? And I said, yeah, I am. I said, he goes, what are you making? And I said, I'm currently writing, and I'll be shooting and directing an IMAX film. And he said, oh, that's cool. Do you have a YouTube page? And I said, no, I don't. I have an Instagram page, but I thought about it last week. I thought, you know what, I should start a YouTube channel. So it's funny, this is my first YouTube video, and this is inspired by his comment, but I had been thinking about it already. And I thought, yeah, let's do that today. So then I thought, well, the other guy's not gonna come around, so I'll just go around to him. So I zip around to the side of the building, and I zip up to this guy, and I said, hey, friend. And he turns around and he goes, oh, hey. And I said, are you hungry? And he goes, I said, are you homeless? And he goes, yeah. And I said, are you hungry? And he goes, yeah, I definitely am. And I said, cool. I said, I've got a pizza. I told him the story about, I've got this leftover pizza, and it's barbecue and blah, blah, blah. And I explained the story, and I say, if it's all yours if you want. And he goes, oh my God, that'd be so great. And I said, yeah, dude, take it. I said, by the way, I have to I said, how long have you been homeless? And he said, I think he said like a few years. I said, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. I was homeless last year, and it was, you know, not that long, but that was enough. It was enough. And he said, oh yeah. He said, but the thing is, he said, I've been sober for 5 days, and I'm so excited. I said, really? He goes, yeah. And I could tell, man, just looking at him, he had a vibrancy and a light to him, and he just had a serenity. And also, again, like when he walked by the first time, my first thought wasn't that he's a homeless guy. And I said, that's so great. I said, what led you to stop, you know, whatever? He goes, oh yeah, because he said, my kids, I've been thinking about my kids, and I gotta get my shit together. And he said, so I gave up alcohol, I gave up weed, I gave up drugs. I've been sober for 5 days. It's so great. I said, how do you stay sober? And he goes, well, I don't hang around with the same people, and I don't hang around the same neighborhoods anymore. And I run away. I get away whenever I see drugs or alcohol or whatever use. Even weed, he goes, I used to do that all the time. I just won't even touch it anymore. I said, man, that's so cool. I said, I have to tell you, when you first walked by and I saw you across the street in front of Luann's Coffee and Beer, I didn't think for 2 seconds that you were homeless. I said, now I'm looking at you and I'm like, wow, you got this head thing on, you've got a unshaven beard, and I can see that your shirt's all sweaty, and like looking at you now, I can go, yeah, he's probably homeless. But I have to tell you, there's nothing about your aura or your psyche, there's nothing about you that honestly promotes this idea that you're homeless. You don't hold yourself like you're homeless. You don't talk like you're homeless. Honestly, I'd say this guy is not homeless, but he dresses like someone who's homeless. And he was like, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that so much. And he goes, oh, by the way, I really love your nail polish. And I said, thank you. I appreciate that. I go, I love this color. This purple's really great. And he goes, yeah, I really like it. And I go, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I go, you know what? He goes, where'd you get it? And I said, I got it from LA Colors. I got it on Amazon. It's not that expensive. I go, wait a minute, hold on. And I pull out of my pocket a nail polish. And I said, hey, I got this. I got another one at home. Why don't you take it? And he goes, really? And I go, yeah, it's yours, man. And he goes, dude, thank you so much. I'm like, you're welcome, man. And it was like the best exchange. And I go, all right, man, I'll see you later. He goes, yeah. That was it. It was so fucking cool, man. And I thought that's the perfect little paradigm for a short story. It's got all the necessary components. You know, it's random-ish, random that I didn't plan it. If you read this in writing, you would think, all right, the character put the nail polish in his pocket. No, you would think this. You'd think the author, Joey Robert Parks, he wrote this little short story, and so he intentionally put the nail polish in the main character's pocket so that later, when this guy said this thing, he'd have it there to hand to him. So that's my first thought. And my second thought is, if I was going to adapt this as a short story, I would want to do everything possible to make it so that the reader, that never crossed their mind. They never thought for 2 seconds that, oh, I see what happened there. The author did it so that it would be later available for that scene. And so then my third thought is, how do you do that? How do you take some moment in life that so seems perfect for a story, and it's perfect for me to share it verbally as a story with you guys, but if I did it in writing, it's a different audience. Now it's a reading audience. Now it's being presented not as a YouTube thing, hey, this story happened to me, let me tell you, and you just accept it at face value. But if I was reading it, if you were reading this story, I'm already thinking, all right, they're going to be thinking, or I don't want them to be thinking at all about, oh, that's interesting, and that's why he did that. And not every reader is going to think that, but any writing readers out there might cross their minds. And as an author, I want to make sure that doesn't cross their mind. So I would build in something else into the story before that, or I might decide to just start in the beginning where I started it just then and not have a preface. And then you don't have any anticipation of that being an issue, and maybe it's just fine. But those are things I think about translating real life moments into translating real life moments into stories. And sometimes they survive perfectly, if they're like that, they're just stolen verbally. But in writing form, they may or may not survive perfectly. That works fine for a tiny little story. It's barely a short story. That's probably, I mean, it is a short story, but that's what, a page, maybe a page and a half. What do I do with that afterwards? I don't know. I believe that every story that you think of, or that happens to you, and you think, wow, I got to write this down. I think every story has a ideal first form, a form that is most suited for that story, the first form. And so the first form of this one was to tell you guys. Now, where it goes from there, I don't know. But anyway.